Bills Mafia, what's going on? It's your boy DM3 alongside A Rich. Happy Saturday night, Billsology. Where else would you rather be? The Buffalo Bills are back. Thank you for joining us wherever you guys are watching us. Akeem, football's back, preseason edition. How you feeling, man?
𝐸𝐮𝐬𝐜𝐫𝐿. If you don't know us by now, please get to know us. We are Billsology. I'm excited for football to be back, man. I was watching other games leading up to the Buffalo Bills game this Saturday, and I'm just excited to see tackle football on my TV screen. So it's an exciting time for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy. It came fast. I remember we were doing countdowns. It was like 100 days, 98 days. And then now here we are, less than a month away from the home opener against the Ravens. We got a ton to talk about. As you guys saw in the thumbnail, we're going to definitely talk about 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐽. We might push that towards the back end of the show just because I know that Akeem and myself, we both want to spend some time discussing that, what that looks like, especially since after the game, there was some comments from Sean McDermott that I do want to get into about what happened with what transpired with 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐽 this weekend. We're going to talk about the offense, obviously Ty Johnson. We're going to talk about the wide receiver battles. We're going to talk about Ray Davis. We're going to talk about the QB2 battles because I think we actually have a QB2 battle. A lot of people, I don't think, really thought that. Heading into training camp, they thought that it was just Mitch Trubisky was going to be the guy. But Mike White, nice showing today. Joey Bosa was out there. The defensive line rookies were all out there. Taron Johnson injury. We got a lot to discuss. So as always, Akeem, I'm gonna flip it over to you. Where do you want to start? What do you want to talk about?
We can definitely go into the preseason game against the New York Giants and the Buffalo Bills. Let's get right to. I noticed you mentioned the quarterback two competition battle. Let's start there.
Yeah, I think it was kind of something that wasn't really brought up a lot within the content creating Bills community throughout the course of the spring and into the summer. There was some folks that were talking about Mitch Trubisky's contract and what it would look like if the Bills did release him to go with Mike White. But I think the relationship that Josh has with Mitch Trubisky favors the Bills keeping him. Now, I understand there's a financial aspect to everything that Brandon Beane does. There's a financial aspect to everything that the Bills do. And right now they're against the cap. I mean, they're pretty close to cap compliant or just a little bit above. So I know Brandon Beane likes to have money to spread around from now until right before the season. He likes to have things during the season for the trade deadline. If you got to make signings throughout the season, things like that, elevations from the practice squad, stuff like that. So after watching today's game, I thought both guys did some things well, and I think that both guys left a little bit out there on the field. Hey, Rich, let's start with Mitch Trubisky. How did you feel about how he performed today? 9 of 13, a touchdown pass, had decent control of the offense. How'd you think about Money Mitch and his performance today?
Bisky, I think he performed. He had a solid showing. 9 of 13, 138 yards, one touchdown. A touchdown to Dawson Knox earlier in the game. He obviously knows the offense, being in within the system over a year now. I believe he had a solid showing. Was it spectacular? Did it wow you? No, it wasn't a wow performance. There some plays he could have had back? Absolutely. Overall, I believe he had a solid showing for the quarterback two competition. So, Mitchell Trubisky, he didn't hurt himself. I'll say that in this performance today.
I mean, I will say, what'd you call him, Bisky? Is that what we're calling him now? All right, that's the Billsology first. You heard it here, Bisky. I there was some questionable stuff early on. I think he got a little bit composed. He had that nice play where he eluded the pressure and he rolled out and threw a nice across the field pass. But I think we know what the ceiling is for Mitch Trubisky. Now, I posted some stuff earlier on X talking about, Mitch Trubisky or Mike White, and everybody was quick in the comments to say, well, if Josh goes down, the season's over regardless. And I get that stance. But my thing is, if we need Mitch to come in or Mike White to come in a pinch, whether it's just a quarter, a drive, a half, even if it's one game or maybe a couple games, I feel like we need to have a competent guy that can run the offense. It's a really heavy run offense. So I get that maybe they can get by if they're playing, a below 500 team or just, a bottom feeding team like the Panthers or something like that. But let's talk about Mike White, because we'll come back to this and we'll kind of, what they do and what they don't. So Mike White threw 2 touchdowns, had that nice long pass to KJ Hamler. I think he was 8 for 13. Very similar stat line for both of them. I think the QB rating was almost identical for both guys, Trubisky and White. The thing to me is, I don't know if we know the ceiling for Mike White. I think we know the ceiling, like I alluded to earlier. We know the ceiling for Trubisky. We know the relationship with Josh and Trubisky. The financial aspect of it, I want to see more of Mike White. I want to be able to see what he can do with this offense if needed. What's your thoughts on Mike White after his performance today? Did his stock elevate? Did he stay even keel? What's your thoughts on Mike White?
I think Mike White played well, did a solid job as well. He was 8 for 13, 112 yards, 2 touchdowns. I think he did solid. Now, we've seen in prior seasons and preseason games where Sean McDermott liked to switch up his players, right? So he might start off one week with Mitchell Trubisky playing with the starting rotation, and then the next week he might switch to a Mike White. So that's what I'm looking forward to seeing for next week. I would want to see Mike White against better competition, and then I want to see Mike White playing with our rotational players and some starters as well. But today, I don't think he did anything to hurt his stock either. And I think Mike White did a good enough job for me to see more of him with more players that's going to actually be on the Buffalo Bills team going forward.
So what you're saying is week 3 of the preseason is going to be a big game for both of these guys, because I think next week, Josh will play probably a quarter. That seems to be Sean McDermott's MO. Is week 2, the starters dress, they play 2 drives or a quarter, whatever that amounts to. So it's going to be interesting. I look at the financial numbers because I know the Bills are up against the cap, and I believe that it's a $750,000 dead cap for Trubisky if he's released, but you also save $2.5 million. So that can be used for roster call-ups, in-season transactions. If there's guys that, as preseason pans out, we've seen Brandon Beane sign guys after the last preseason game, guys that were starters on other teams that just they were roster casual or cap casualties. So it's going to be interesting to see. But I don't know. I don't think that one has a hand up over the other right now. I think it's an even race right now, and I think it's going to be interesting as we go along here.
And so when I hear even race and I hear financials, it leads me to believe Mike White should have the one up, because if Mitchell Trubisky is going to be the more expensive player, in my opinion, he has to be the obvious number 2 quarterback. He has to be the obvious guy to win. And if it's close and we don't know, and it's not surety there, and it looked like a tie, then in my opinion, because of that financial cap situation that you just alluded to, I would give the edge to Mike White. Because if you put on a random jersey and you don't know who is who, I think that spells some trouble for Mitch Trubisky, because he's the more expensive player.
All right, so every week I ask you who CB2 is. We have that whole Trey White thing going on. So I'm going to ask you every week from now until the final 53 is revealed. Who's the Bills' number 2 quarterback right now? If you're Brandon Beane.
Right now, today, I still believe it's Bisky. I believe it's Mitchell Trubisky is the quarterback to today, August 9th, 2025.
I like it. All right, so that's the offensive side. We'll see. We'll kind of keep an eye on that. And we'll obviously that'll be a topic of conversation for the next couple weeks. So Ty Johnson, we were talking about Ty Johnson in our group chat, and you mentioned that, if Ty Johnson gets more opportunities, what could Ty Johnson actually be? You've been on the Ty Johnson bandwagon, I think, for 3 years now. Like when the Bills initially signed him, you were the first one that I know that said that it's a great signing. He's a hell of a running back. So what did you see today? What didn't you see today? Like where's your thought process at with what Ty Johnson can be? And this will tie into the James Cook conversation we have later on. about what Ty Johnson is and what he means to this Bills offense.
I think us as fans, because of how he was played last year, I think we put Ty Johnson in a specific role or a specific boat, saying, "Hey, Ty Johnson is an excellent third down running back." Even Josh Allen said last year, Ty Johnson is the best third down running back in this NFL because of what he's able to do. He's trustworthy. He's reliable. He can run routes at the backfield. He has sure hands. You can go to him in clutch situations. But I believe even in today's performance, where we look over at some of Ty Johnson's stats, 3 attempts, 26 yards, 8.7 yards per carry. Now, it's only preseason, but it made me wonder. I seen a guy that looked explosive running between the tackles. I seen a guy that can bend that corner and get to the outside. And then we're going to talk about James Cook contract and his situation, and we hope he's available come week 1 against the Baltimore Ravens. But it left me wondering, like, is Ty Johnson just a third round type of running back? Can this guy be effective on first and second down as well? Can this guy be effective with some more playing time running between the tackles as a premier running back within the Buffalo Bills offense, even if it's not a long period of time? Can he do it? And from the looks of it, it looks as if Ty Johnson, if given the opportunity, can take on a bigger role and indeed excel in that role as well. So I really like Ty Johnson, but I know he's a great third down back, but I'm thinking he is a damn good complete running back in this NFL that is being overlooked because of the talent we have in front of him.
Do you think that's why he didn't garner more offers in free agency and the Bills were able to bring him back? It's because he's not been given the opportunities. Now, you can go back and look at what he has meant to this team. The game against the Lions, he was ridiculous. And you could tell Joe Brady game planned for him to get the ball in that game, however they were going to get the ball to him. The AFC Championship game, he was on the field on third down a lot. He was on the field a lot more than James Cook was on that last drive, if James Cook was even out there, because that's what they did all year in those 2 and 3 minute situations. They either at the end of a half or at the end of a game, they had Ty Johnson out there because they trust that he could not only just make nice runs, catches, but he could also pass protect. So I don't know. I think a lot of us were alarmed when the Bills let him hit free agency, because I think he's one of those unsung hero type players for the Bills who he seems to just make plays. You have the Denver game in the postseason last year. He made that ridiculous catch. Like there's just times when the Bills offense is moving or there's a productive play and you see, well, who was the running back on that play? It was Ty Johnson. So it's a great question. And I don't know if we're going to ever be able to get the answer to that because of how Joe Brady likes to use him in the dynamic situations that he uses him in. I don't want to say he's a gadget running back, but he's like I can do it all running back that they use in certain situations. And I don't think Joe Brady's going to go away from that. But I saw in the comments, people were talking about Frank Gore, and I know that you wanted to talk about Frank Gore Jr. As well. I posted on X, Frank Gore Jr. is a hell of a third option for running back on a team. It's just too bad that Ty Johnson's here. So that kind of ties together. So give me your thoughts on Frank Gore. He had a really good game today. There was a drive that was, I think, 40 or 50 yards of it were him getting the Bills down the field on pass catching and on running. So what's your thoughts on Frank Gore Jr.? Is this a practice squad guy? Is this someone that they need to protect if he's on the practice squad? What's your thoughts?
Now it all depends on the situation with James Cook. We're thinking as fans that, okay, James Cook is sitting because of contract negotiations, but once the season rolled around, we would think he would be not only in the Buffalo Bills uniform just warming up, but actually playing as well. But God forbid if that's not the case and it just take an incredibly ugly turn, that I think it opens the door for a guy like a Frank Gore Jr. because he showed some elusiveness in the backfield today. He showed hands out the backfield, 5 receptions, 50 yards. He showed that he can indeed break the first tackle and run in between tackles. So I really liked what I saw from Frank Gore Jr. and what the preseason is not only for You're not only showcasing for the team that you're on, you're showcasing for the other 30 plus teams in the NFL. And I think Frank Gore Jr., if he continues to keep it up, and the Buffalo Bills running back situation comes in order like we hope and expect it to be, I'm not sure if the Buffalo Bills will be able to stash him on a practice squad roster. I would hope we can stash him, and I hope he would have that availability within the Buffalo Bills practice squad. But if he continued to compound successful tape in this preseason, I can definitely see even a team like the New York Giants taking a flyer on a Frank Gore in their 53-man roster, or another team in this NFL. So I like what I see from him today, and we're going to see what happens with the Buffalo Bills running back situation, and hence I think that's going to affect the future of Frank Gore with the Buffalo Bills or with another NFL roster.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of that I agree with. I think I don't. And Roy Collins said that he easily clears waivers. I don't know. He's got 2 years of film, and he's very productive. Now, you can say he's playing with the scrubs. He's playing with the 2s and 3s, and he's been productive. But you got to start somewhere. He's an undrafted free agent. You know, I mean, he's not a guy that comes highly touted as you know, a first, second, or third round pick. He's a guy that battled to make it to a team, and he was on the practice squad last year. So we'll see what happens. All you can do if you're him is ask for opportunity, and you get opportunity, and then you earn more opportunity. And that's what he's doing. And I like what I see from him. You want to talk about wide receivers? This might go long.
Absolutely.
This might go long.
Absolutely.
So your initial, and I'll let you kind of steer this ship. What is your initial take on the Bills wide receiver roster? You can start however you want. You could talk about the guys that are bubble guys, fringe guys. I'll let you take the wheel on the Bills wide receiver roster.
Now, with the Bills wide receiver roster, I believe we saw some locks today on the field. I think Keon Coleman, he had a quiet day, but obviously I believe he's a lock, right? We all know 𝐾𝐨𝐴 not in uniform, hurt, nursing that injury. He's a lock. Then we have Joshua Palmer, who had a decent showing. He was able to get away and make some catches. I believe he's a lock. You know, Curtis Samuel is a guy that, you know, a lot of people is like, you know what, he could be a trade guy. He could be a trade candidate. He's been off injured, but I seen something in Curtis Samuel, especially late in the season, where he was starting to develop a connection for Josh Allen. And he looked like he can be an explosive weapon for Josh Allen. I believe he had a couple of touchdowns in back-to-back playoff games, and that's where you want your guys to shine the brightest and the most. And I think because of that, and because of the explosion, you know, with no 𝐾𝐨𝐴 on the team today, with no 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐽 Cook on the team today, I believe the Buffalo Bills lacked explosiveness as an offensive unit, and I think that is what Curtis Samuel brings. He brings an offensive trait, that a dimension that the other receivers don't necessarily have, and that's explosiveness. So I think Curtis Samuel is going to be just fine in terms of making the roster. Now, Eli Moore, I know he had a quiet day today, and I know some people may think, you know, and it may be possible that he could be a bubble guy, but I believe you said it in the chat earlier today too. But I would like to see Eli Moore with our actual guys, with our actual guy Josh Allen, and see what he can do within the offense when we have our first team offense out there, when we have our MVP quarterback out there, because I do believe, despite his quiet day, that he does have explosive traits, and he is a different receiver than Curtis Samuel. I think they're both, you know, they're not the biggest of guys, but I believe Curtis Samuel is that more run after the catch guy. I believe Curtis Samuel has the explosive ability, but not necessarily an explosive ability to stretch the field vertically. I don't believe he's that type of explosive receiver. I believe Eli Moore is that type of explosive receiver, where he gets down vertically and he gets to beat the safeties down deep and make plays, and he has the explosive ability that way. So I want to see how he is with Josh Allen and with the first team offense. But Tyrell Shavers is proven to be, in my opinion, a guy that's deserving a roster spot. He has done nothing but take advantage of all opportunities since he's been on the Buffalo Bills roster since last year. You know, taking a screen pass 69 yards to the house against the New York Jets, getting behind the defense today. He doesn't look like he's a fast guy, but he's continuously making explosive plays and showing that trust and reliability in his hands. So I really, really like what I saw from 𝐼𝐸 today, and it's kind of solidifying what we've been seeing from him in the opportunities he get in the Buffalo Bills uniform.
What's your thoughts on 𝐬𝐫𝐞𝐻? You think he makes the right? He returned a punt today. People said he didn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
He returned 2 kickoffs. He averaged 32 yards a kick return. He was a gunner on special teams, which I didn't know that he had that in him. Apparently, that's something that he's going to do. And he had that nice catch for the 2-point conversion. So, are people writing him off because of the Tyrell Shavers and the other 5 wide receivers that you named? Are people writing off 𝐬𝐫𝐞𝐻, even though the Bills and Sean McDermott puts a huge emphasis on special teams, not just the catching part of it, but also the tackling part and covering and stuff like that? What's your thoughts on him?
I think he performed well as well. And, you know, even myself, I kind of overlooked him thinking about the guys we already have in a roster, thinking about what I saw from Tyrell Shavers today. And you're right, you know, 𝐬𝐫𝐞𝐻, he showed that he could be multidimensional, not only within the offense, but on special teams as well, and do a multitude of things. And we all know, you know, Sean McDermott, Brandon Beane, they cover the guys that can be versatile on special teams and on the offense as well. I believe his showing is proven to be worth possibly more of a he's in a competition with Codrington, right? Who's going to kick return? Who's going to return those kicks? Can Brandon Codrington do more? I've seen him on the defensive side of the ball. I noticed he had some breakups, or he had some snaps on the defense where he performed well with some incompletions there. I believe those two can be battling for a spot, but 𝐬𝐫𝐞𝐻, I think, is an interesting prospect at the wide receiver position for the Buffalo Bills, nevertheless.
Yeah, I think that's something he's definitely, if any of them are on the outside looking in, I think he's probably one of them, only because he's been around the league, doesn't seem to have found a system that he's been able to fit into with his skill set, because Brandon Beane likes big receivers. I mean, he just does. He likes those big body receivers. I mean, look at Gabe Davis. He's the same build as Gabe Davis. But a lot of people weren't really talking about him until today's game, where he was kind of all over the place, special teams, doing different things. What about KJ Hamler? Is this the year that KJ Hamler cracks the Bills 53, or is he another practice squad guy? Nice 39-yard touchdown, catch from Mike White today. Everybody saw him on Hard Knocks. He's going to be the Hard Knocks darling, riding the small scooters, whatnot. I think he's a great locker room guy. What's your thoughts on him? Is this more of the same as last year? Because I do believe the Bills wide receiver roster is deeper than it was last year. And I even said on X, last year probably would have been his best shot. So what's your thoughts on KJ Hamler?
I like KJ Hamler as well. It's like when you're talking about, we kind of know the 1 through 3, 1 through 4 with the Buffalo Bills, but when you're talking about that 4 receiver, 5 receiver, possibly 6 receiver, that's where the Buffalo Bills, in my opinion, that's where they're deep at. It's like they have a number of guys that can be roster quality guys, if not on the Buffalo Bills, on other NFL teams. And I think KJ Hamler is another guy that can be suitable for those roles as a number 5, number 6 wide receiver. How does he compare to Eli Moore? How does he compare to a Tyrell Shavers? With Eli Moore and Curtis Samuel, is it enough room for another smaller in stature guy like a KJ Hamler? So I think all those things is something that we have to think about. But when we're talking about opportunities and making the most of the opportunity, KJ Hamler, he didn't have no drops out there. He didn't make no mistakes out there. He looked good in the kick return game. I like what I saw from KJ Hamler today, and I think that's going to be a lot more to watch, those 4, 5, 6 receiver candidate guys as the preseason rolls along. I think they're going to be in stiff competition amongst each other. And I've seen Brandon Beane, I've seen their staff up there, their scouting staff up there with their pen and their pad, and they was writing a lot of notes today. And I'm pretty sure a lot is going to be pertaining to those receivers that we're talking about currently.
Yeah, I want to talk about Elijah Moore for a minute, because people think on social media that I'm a stan for Elijah Moore. I just realized the skill set that the man has, and the fact that he hasn't played with a quarterback that's been worth a damn for most of his career. He's had some signs with some decent quarterback play. I guess if you count Jameis Winston, when he's on, he's good.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, I want to see Elijah Moore not playing with Mitch Trubisky, who completely missed him wide open over the field, which would have been an easy 70-yard touchdown. And he checked down to Dalton Kincaid. I mean, dude was wide open.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see Elijah Moore play with Josh Allen. I want to see him run routes, be targeted, make catches, make plays. Because if not, we're just talking about practice. We're talking about what this coaching staff sees in practice. And a wise old man once says, it's not when you're playing in the game, it's who you're playing with. And when Elijah Moore was in the game today, he was playing with the ones other than Mitch Trubisky. He was out there with the starting offensive lineman. He was playing with the ones. Kincaid was out there. Keon was out there. So he was lining up, running routes with the ones. Now, I understand Shakir was out. They have some other injuries going on. But I think that he's a difference maker. I honestly do. I think he has deep field speed. And I think that's something that the Bills have been looking for 8 years. They tried it with Emmanuel Sanders. It worked for a little bit. They've tried to tinker with it here and there. John Brown, for instance. But I feel like I want to see him get reps before everybody starts saying, well, he needs to go. He's only costing the Bills a couple $1 million, or they sign him for a couple million. I want to see what he's got with an actual MVP caliber quarterback, running routes and doing things that he wasn't able to do in his other stops in the NFL. So that's my thoughts on that. My thoughts on Tyrell Shavers is, again, he's making plays, and I like him. I like the skill set. I like what he did last year to be on the team last year late in the season. But you have to go one-on-one, the competition that he's going against. He's playing against backups. Now, I'm not saying he can't run routes and he can't make plays against ones, but until I see him out there running routes with the ones and Josh Allen throwing him the ball, I don't know if the Bills are going to keep 6 receivers. I don't. I like him as a player. I think he's worked his ass off to be where he's at, to not be drafted and to come to the Bills and be on the team all of last year and learn the system. I just don't know if his skill set sets him apart from any of the other guys that he's competing against to make the 53, because everybody's quick to say, well, Shavers is a lock. I think he's got a good shot, but I don't know if it's a lock at this point. So
let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
We spoke about, we're obviously talking about Tyrell Shavers. We spoke about Eli Moore. You brought up Laviska Shenault and KJ Hamler. Shavers, Shenault, Hamler. Who's in chat? Y'all can give me your thoughts as well. Shavers, Shenault, Hamler. Who is the first receiver you taking between the three?
Probably Shenault.
You like it. You like his multidimensional skill set.
I think this is probably going to not land well with a lot of people, but I don't like using Brandon Codrington just for the roster spot, because he can't play cornerback. That's his position by nature, but we did that, in the past. We've had guys that were just special teams players. We had returners that were special teams returners. Shenault, I feel like if there's injuries, when we're talking about the Bills and it already looks like the injury bug is already ravished through this team, would you rather have Shenault in, say, a meaningful game catching passes, or would you have Shavers? Would you rather have Shavers catching passes because there's injuries to either Keon or somebody else? What's your thoughts on that? I mean, it's ideally not to have either one, obviously,
right,
but Shenault can return kicks and he's going to break one. I have a feeling that he's going to break one. He was a gunner today. He had that nice catch on the 2-point conversion. I just like his body size. I like what he's able to do. He might be something that they can use in scheme up for red zone. His physical abilities similar to Keon Coleman. I don't know. I've liked him since before the draft when he was coming out. So I don't know. I feel like I would take Shenault based off of just skill set, his ability. We haven't seen if Shavers can do anything else other than catch passes. Like, I don't know special teams wise what he does there, what he offers there. We know what Shenault offers there. So
for me, it's kind of like, there's two ways of scouting nowadays, right? There is, the analytics. Analytics has taken over, obviously. And then there's still, eyes and feel of the game, right? And
right.
there's, the older coaches is going to go by the feel of the game and based on what they see. Maybe the newer coaches, the newer guys are going to go by analytics. And that's what I compare Shavers to Shenault to. It's like, okay, when I look at the performance on the field, it's hard to deny, even though he's not, doing a multitude of things, it's hard to deny what Tyrell Shavers is doing. And again, I base it back to last year when he took the touchdowns to the house. Every time that the ball is thrown to his way, if it's in his grasp, he makes the opportunity, he makes the play. But when I think about Laviska Shenault, and now I think about taking a step further and think about Joe Brady's offense, how he likes to get the ball out quick, the quick passing game, the rack yardage, the yards after the catch. Laviska Shenault fits that mold of the offense Joe Brady wants to implement. So when I think about it like that, I'm like, I want to see more Laviska Shenault, because he's had a hard time in his career staying healthy. And I believe because early in his career he wasn't healthy, he got off to a slow start. But now that, even with the Buffalo Bills, but now that he's healthy, I want to see what Laviska Shenault can do, because what we saw today and the little time that we did see him, we've seen him do a number of different things. And being the fact that you can do a number of different things, especially on a Sean McDermott team, that bodes well for existence on the team. So when I think about, again, Joe Brady's offense, I think about what Laviska Shenault can possibly do in it, and it could be greater than what Tyrell Shavers can provide. But when I look, Tyrell Shavers doing nothing but executing the plays when he's been called on.
100%. Hey, a couple housekeeping notes. If you guys like the stream, can you please like the stream? Go ahead and hit that like button. Drop some comments. Keep them coming. There's a good conversation going on in the chat. And share this wherever you guys are watching this. Please share, especially if you're watching on YouTube. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It helps us with the algorithm. Hit the bell for the notifications and know when all of our shows are live. All right. So I don't want to talk about wide receivers anymore. I think I talked about it enough online in our group chat on here. I think it's going to be really interesting. I think, like you said, 1 through 4-ish are probably set in stone. I want to say, or I don't want to say locks, but anything's possible. But that those fringe 5-6 guys is going to be really interesting to see who steps up the next couple of weeks in preseason. So, all right,
big shout out right quick. Big shout out. I know you don't want to talk receivers no more. Christian Wilkinson, big shout out to him. Yeah. One hand grab, even though it was out of bounds. He did make a play later on. I think he's definitely a practice squad candidate. Older guy, 28 years old. I just wanted to touch on him really quick. I like what I've seen from him today. So it's a deep receiving core for the Buffalo Bills when you talk about 5, 6, 7, 8 receiver.
Yeah, hell of a reception too. I thought he had it for sure, but they were quick to say he was out of bounds. So let's talk about Joey Bosa real quick. I think there was a ton of doom and gloom when back in the spring, he had the calf injury and everybody's like, oh, here we go. $13.9 million out the window. It's another Von Miller situation. But then quietly, we didn't really hear anything. Training camp happened. He was kind of just doing stuff off to the side all the time. And then the mandatory camp came and, they went to St. John Fisher and we didn't see a ton of him doing stuff. I'll tell you what, though, he looked pretty good today. I mean, he looks good in all Bills white, that's for sure. But he looked pretty good today. He was creating pressure. And for a guy who hasn't really done much this offseason, he looks good. And he even said after the game that this is the first time he's played in preseason in like 6 or 7 years. So good for him. What's your thoughts on Joey Bosa? Because obviously it's preseason. Obviously opposing teams are doing different things with their offensive line and who he's going against, and they're trying to figure things out as well. And we haven't seen him out there with the starting 4 that are going to be out there, opposite of Groot and stuff like that. But what's your initial takes on Joey Bosa? We don't have to spend a ton of time on it, but it was nice to see him out there and getting after it.
Exactly right. It was nice to see him out there and not just out there getting after it, out there being effective, out there being a force. That is the Joey Bosa we signed, what I envisioned in those limited snaps. I saw today. I saw a guy that can be forceful. I saw a guy that can make plays when given the opportunity, and I saw a guy that can make an impact. And that's one thing the Buffalo Bills need, especially late in games, especially late in the season, especially when you're playing guys like Lamar Jackson or Joe Burrow or Patrick Mahomes. You need a guy that can get to the quarterback and make big plays, big game-changing plays. And so far, what I've seen from Joey Bosa is a guy that can possibly do so as long as he's healthy. And 6-7 years without playing the preseason, it's been a long time coming. I was a little nervous when I see him on the field in this first preseason game. I'm like, okay, hold on. Are we sure we want to do this? Are we sure we want to go this route? But I'm glad we did. I'm glad Joey Bosa was out there, and I'm glad he was out there, being a force. He looked like a Bosa today. He looked like a Bosa.
Let's fingers crossed. Who knows how much he's going to play in week 2, and hopefully not at all in week 3. And he's ready to go against the Ravens because we need him to get after Lamar in week 1 and set the tone early on for the season. Taron Johnson, I said this a couple weeks ago. Stop being a crash test dummy. Please stop being a crash test dummy and throwing your body around with reckless abandon. I'm not calling Taron Johnson a dummy. I'm just saying the dude plays old style football, and it's concerning, especially for a guy who has a concussion history. He got the stinger today. I think collectively a lot of Bills fans were like, oh boy, this is the last thing that we need right now. What's your thoughts on how hard Taron Johnson plays and what your initial thoughts were when you saw him go down today?
I didn't honestly, and I know we have to get game reps in, and that's ideally, but I didn't. I know what Taron Johnson can do, right? We know what the man is capable of. I would have got him out there, got him out the game probably a little sooner than what he did. Now I know that even you alluded to it, being a crash test dummy. When in the game of football, it's a combat sport, right? The game of football is a combat sport, and you grew up playing a certain way. And when you grow up playing that certain way your whole career, even though it's preseason, because I know a lot of people say, hey, Tyron, chill, it's preseason. It's like, oh, what do you want? Do you want Tyron Johnson effort? Or do you want Damar Hamlin effort?
Oh boy,
right?
Don't start.
Right? So it's like what do we want? And then we want a guy that's going to play the game the right way. And even though Taron Johnson being a smaller in stature guy, he only knows how to play one way, and that's football. It's football at the end of the day. It's combat sports at the end of the day. So I don't blame Taron Johnson for being what he knows how to be, what he's been, what made him an all-pro player for the Buffalo Bills. I'm just glad that it's only a stinger, and now let's not test the waters anymore. We know what he provides. We know what he brings to the table. Let's get him out, get him right, get him healthy. We don't need to see him again till what? September 7th.
Right, 100%. So that I'm glad you brought up Damar Hamlin, because I don't know what angle he took on that play. That was more on Dane Jackson than on him. But that dart, no pun intended, from Jackson Dart, Damar Hamlin was jogging. I don't know. I even said nice effort, Damar. So I bring that up to say this. What's your thoughts on the Bills' depth, not just at safety, but at corner? I know that obviously Benford didn't play. Obviously, Maxwell Hairston's going to be out for a few weeks. Maxwell Hairston's already off his crutches, which is remarkable. I know Trey. Okay, I'll do it now. Akeem, is Trey White CB2 week 1?
Yes, he is. Trey White is still CB2. He's still CB2 week 1.
Okay, all right.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna do it every week. What are your thoughts on the Bills? I thought we were super deep at all the DB positions, but today our depth, and I know it's preseason and it's the first game, and there's some things that they probably just need to work on, and I'm a little concerned at safety. What what's your thoughts overall? You could pick either corner, start there, and then go back into safety, or you could start safety and work your way back, however you want. But what's your thoughts? Damar Hamlin's effort today was not good. Dane Jackson looked lost, and I know he's probably the 5th or 6th corner on the team. The only ones that looked good, honestly, were Hancock and Dorian Strong. And those are guys that haven't played in the NFL before. So what's your thoughts? You take that however you run with that, however you want to run with it. We could pick it apart.
I'm concerned with the safety position. I have my concerns there. I've grown accustomed to seeing Buffalo Bills safeties being starters, being impact players, and being durable for most of the games when we talk about Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde. And now we're into this Taylor Rapp and Cole Bishop tenure, and it's like, how are we going to get the stability necessary? How are we going to get the necessary reps to communicate properly on defense in the back end? How much is that, Damar Hamlin, even though you can't teach effort, you can't coach effort, but how much is that due to, lack of competition? Lack of communication in the back end, right? So it's just like, I do have some concerns with the Buffalo Bills depth in the secondary period, not just safety, but at corner as well. Just I have more concern at safety because of the lack of availability our starting safeties are giving us, right? But it's like, okay, Maxwell Harrison, I hope he get healthy sooner rather than later, right? I think that's a guy, even though he's going to be a rookie, I think that's a guy that the Buffalo Bills are going to need that type of presence in the back end, because I didn't see too much explosiveness in the back end either. I didn't see too much speed. I didn't see too much explosiveness. I think we lacked in that area, as well as a defensive backfield unit for the Buffalo Bills. So do I have some concerns? Yes, I have some concerns. But again, it's August 9th. We do have 3 to 4 weeks to rectify the situation, and hopefully the durability and availability can show, by week 3 of this preseason.
Yeah, I know it's preseason. It's overreaction season. I understand, but I hope it's that the kinks just need to be worked on. So I brought up Jordan Hancock and Dorian Strong. What were your thoughts on those guys? I thought if Landon Jackson, it was close if he was in the neutral zone. I think it was pretty close. But if he's not lining up off sides, Jordan Hancock's got an interception. And I thought Dorian Strong, I thought he looked good, if I'm being honest with you. Now, I know they were playing against 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th wide receivers. He wasn't playing against 1s and 2s, but he's a guy that everybody was falling in love with after rookie minicamp. They said that this guy is going to compete. Again, we brought it up on a show a couple weeks ago, 6th-round draft pick. That looks like a really good cornerback. So what's your thoughts on those two, the rookies?
I like what I saw from both rookies today, Jordan Hancock and Dorian Strong. I've seen Dorian Strong out there for quite a bit, and I think he popped out on quite a bit of plays. Jordan Hancock and his opportunities, he made plays, he popped off the screen. Again, these are later round picks, so we want to see more. We want to see the development and progression continue, but we want to see it continue in that right direction. So I believe for those two rookies, it was definitely a good step, a good start into the right direction for the Buffalo Bills rookies. I want to ask you a question though, right? Because we've been talking about, and again, it's only preseason, it's overreaction season. But I want to talk about the defensive play calling. What did you have any thoughts, or you didn't take too much into it with the defensive play calling today? Because I understand it's preseason once again, but once again, I also saw too many guys wide open. Like I saw for the New York Giants, there was guys that it was nowhere around the wide receiver making play at a time. Did you have any concern seeing that? Did you think players? Did you think coaching, scheme, and play calling? Did that ever come in your mind? I just want to know your thoughts on what you saw play calling wise for the Buffalo Bills today. The screen pass was also very effective once again. Yep. Regular season, preseason, the screen pass is always effective against the Buffalo Bills. Let me just get your thoughts on
that. Vanilla. I think that they were playing vanilla cover schemes. I don't think that Sean McDermott wants to show his full hand. He brought in a defensive line coach. He brought in, I think, another DB's coach a different one from the one he had last year. They have a safeties coach. He's got another defensive assistant. I don't think that they're showing everything they want to do. And I think today was a lot of trial and error stuff because I think they want to be more physical. I think having the defensive line coach 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐜 come in, they want to get after the quarterback and they want to run all these exotic blitz packages and get the linebackers involved there. I think as far as the back 4-5, if you include Taryn in that, I think they want to be more press heavy. I honestly do. I think that that's what they started to do down the stretch last year, and I think it kind of bit them in the postseason. It definitely didn't work against the Ravens. It definitely didn't work against the Chiefs. Now, personnel was also an issue with who was out there against the Chiefs. But I do think the Bills want to be more hands-on. They want to be more physical. And I don't think that McDermott went out there today and said, we're going to show them everything we're going to do, on top of the fact that look who was out there for most of the game. You didn't have any Benford out there. There was no Cole Bishop. There was no, or for an extended period of time, there was no Taylor Rapp out there. Trey wasn't out there very long. And when he was out there, he looked like he just didn't even want to tackle today. Taron Johnson went out early. So we had a lot of Cam Lewis. It was like they were testing who was able to do what. And I just think that, it was vanilla. I don't want to, like give excuses for it because this team's had issues covering a screen forever. We've talked about this. This team's had issues stopping the run forever. This team also was really good at one point of keeping everything in front of them and not allowing guys to be wide open because of who you talked about previous with the safeties that the Bills had that were very good and would not allow anything over the top. The two quarterbacks on the back end of the defense, and they don't have that anymore. They got guys they're trying to piece in and trying to figure out. Plus, I think the system, I said this 3 weeks ago, the system is going to take time to adjust into what it's going to actually be because there are going to be a lot of guys that are new into the system. You're going to have to integrate Maxwell Hairston when he comes back. Cole Bishop is still trying to figure the position out. It's just there's a lot going on. So again, I'm not going to give excuses, but I don't think they showed anything today. It's preseason. I don't think. When have you seen a dominant defensive performance by the Bills in preseason? I've never seen one. It just kind of feels like they go through the motions. They put guys in positions to either be successful or to fail. And a lot of times if they're out of place or the communication's bad, which is all in practice, then things like today happened. The New York Giants score 35 points. Or 34 points. It's what happens. Does that make any sense?
No, it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. And I think, this is a great time for us to segue back into the defensive line. More specifically, we spoke about a set of rookies on the back end with Hancock and Dorian Strong. What's your thoughts on the other set of rookies on the defensive front, Deion Walker and TJ Sanders? What did you see from them in their play today? Were you impressed? What's your overall thoughts?
Didn't see much of Landon Jackson. I mean, I thought he was present. I don't think he made an impact. I still think he's trying to figure some stuff out.
He looked over his head today. In my opinion, today, Landon Jackson, out the three, he looked like the one we spoke about, possibly Walker being that project guy. He looked like the project guy today, Landon Jackson. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. I think like we kind of touched on it a couple weeks ago. We said that Landon Jackson was kind of raw, and his trajectory of his college career from when he first came into college, barely looking like he knew how to do anything defensively to play football, to where he was drafted at, he trended all the way up every year. And I feel like his NFL career it's going to be the exact same. He's going to have to be molded, and he's going to have to be put in positions to be successful. I think that's why 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐜 was also brought in as well, because they knew that Brandon Beane was going to revamp this entire defensive line. So why not bring in a coach with another set of eyes to kind of help mold this young talent to coexist with the guys already on roster? But TJ Sanders looked nice. I thought he looked quick today. I thought he created a couple pressures, nothing crazy. We need him to be that guy that can be next to Ed Oliver, or if he's going to play the 3 technique next to De'Aaron Walker or DaQuan Jones, someone that can help stop the run and create pressures. But De'Aaron Walker, that pass breakup that he had was ridiculous. I'm sorry. It looked effortless. Like, he pushed the lineman all the way back into the quarterback and he was still bent over. Now he's 100 feet tall, so he was still bent over. He just went like that and he deflected the ball. That's what the Bills need. If you're not going to get a sack, if you're not going to make a negative play, at least knock the ball down. I think that's where, with guys like him and Greg Rousseau and some other length on the defensive line, I think that's going to be a huge key to what they can do defensively to hopefully help this team get off the field on third down. But what was your take on those 3 guys?
Landon Jackson, I think, he's still getting accustomed to the speed of the game. He's still getting accustomed to, how the game should be played on the NFL level. He was battling some injury before our training camp started, so he might be a little bit behind the 8 ball there. So he has some catching up to do, but you can't judge a young guy, young 3rd round pick. Can't judge a guy off of one game to solidify his whole tenure as a Buffalo Bill, right? But I definitely want to see some more progression out of him. He's a when we talk about De'Aaron Walker, we know that he's a mammoth human being, and we forget how big other guys are because of Walker. But Landon Jackson is big in his own right, 6'5", 260, 270 pounds. So I still want to see him progress and grow, and we'll see what happens throughout the course of the preseason with him. I like the pass rush ability I saw from both De'Aaron Walker and TJ Sanders from the interior. That's what we need. We need guys with great get-offs and that can beat the initial combat from the offensive lineman. I think De'Aaron Walker did a great job getting through his guy and getting his hand up and being an impactful player on that play. And I think TJ Sanders has an array of moves that I think he's yet to put on display, but we saw a little bit today in how he moves and how light on the feet he is. I think both tackles are showing, along now with Ed Oliver. I think the defensive tackle unit for the Buffalo Bills is a very athletic group, and I think that athleticism was put onto display today. So as the preseason winds down and we get an exact idea of who's going to be who and where they are in the depth chart, I really like to see how these guys perform. But today in their limited action, I like the pass rushing presence they both was able to provide. Now, I really like De'Aaron Walker because of his size. He has unteachable traits. Now, does he have the everything else in terms of the understanding of the game, getting down the timing of the game, the IQ of the game, and putting everything together to be an effective player, to combined with being a massive human being is something that I'm excited to see. But I like what I saw today from both guys.
Can they stop the run? We need our defensive tackles to stop the run. That's what these guys were brought in to do. Yes, pressures and QB sacks are great if you can get them from a defensive tackle. I need them to stop the run. So, well, they also beefed up the ends. So, where shall we go from here? I think we covered most of what we saw today, the Bills preseason game against the Giants. I don't put too much stock in the results of the game. I put more stock in what I see from the players and how they perform. I think that's what's most important because, again, this isn't judging if the Bills' third stringers are better than the Giants' third stringers. This is judging how do they execute. Like, is there adversity? Can they overcome obstacles? Can they do simple things like tackle and make catches and run the ball and block and things like that? So it'll be interesting the next 2 more weeks. Got 2 more preseason games. This was the last preseason game at the old Highmark Stadium in the history of ever. So there is that. All right. You want to talk about James Cook?
Yeah. I think it's about that time. Let's get to it.
I think that we've been trying to talk about this for like a month now. And we just kind of talked about it here and there for a little bit. But I think that, you and me need to have. We just need to have a conversation about James Cook. Let's just no notes. I got no notes. This is just me being a Buffalo Bills fan, being someone who has followed this team long enough, watched this team long enough, watched enough film on this team to know what a good running back looks like, what I think a good running back is worth. And I think that James Cook should get a contract extension. Now, the Kyren Williams extension that he just got with the Rams is the template. I think that I'm not going to speak for you, but I'm pretty sure we could probably both agree that that is based off of production the last 2 seasons, drafted the same year, pretty close in age. That's the template for what James Cook should be looking at. Now, that was 3 years, 33 million, 23 million guaranteed. Okay, an average value of 11 mil per with 23 million guaranteed. Now, I don't know what Brandon Beane and the Bills offered James Cook. That's not been made public, nor should it be made public. That's none of our business until it's a signed deal. Is that a fair offer if you're James Cook? 3 years, 33 mil, 23 mil guaranteed based off of your production. If you look at the rushing yards, the receiving yards, the touchdowns, it's very similar. I think Williams has a few more rushing touchdowns, but Cook's got more receiving yards and the rushing yards are pretty close. Is that a fair offer for James Cook?
And it's obviously we're speaking as from a fan perspective, and then we're trying to base it on reality based on the competition level around the league, and that comparison is indeed Kyren Williams from the Rams, right? Do I think that's a fair deal for James Cook? Absolutely. I would even go as far, and I said from the beginning, I'll go up to 3 years, 36 mil, 12 per annually. I would have no problem with that. I believe James Cook is an important piece to the Buffalo Bills puzzle. I believe he is the second best skill position player behind Josh Allen. Notice I said skill position because overall you got Deion Dawkins there, and that's where it could get murky. But as far as skill position, he's the second best player on that offense. And I think, with the type of offensive coordinator we have in Joe Brady, we need our multitude of backs, and a lot of that being James Cook for this offense to strive and have success once again. So I love James Cook. I think that contract, again, it's hard for me to talk about what another man think he's worth. But when I compare it to the rest of the players in the league, and I'm looking at statistical categories as well, when you're comparing players, I absolutely think 3 years, $36 million is a fair market value deal for a player like James Cook. 25, we want to be 26 this season. So that 3-year deal, 27, 28, 29 years old. I'm not necessarily looking at age. When I look at James Cook, I'm looking at wear and tear. He didn't have that much wear and tear in college coming out of the University of Georgia. He didn't have that much wear and tear for the Buffalo Bills his rookie season. He didn't have that much wear and tear when you look at his percentage of snaps last season for the Buffalo Bills. So I absolutely think that not only is he worth that type of contract, I believe he can play and make an impact for the next 4 years, including this season for the Buffalo Bills. James Cook is a heck of a player. I'm just not ready to put him in that next tier, that next bracket of players. And that next tier, I think, is Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley and those type of players that, in my opinion, if they want to command $15 and $16 million per, those are the type of players you give those to. But that next tier, that James Cook, that Kyren Williams, that Josh Jacobs tier, I would absolutely go ahead and pay that for James Cook. But it takes two. It takes two to get that done.
Yeah, it was funny because the insiders on the NFL Network said that they were close. At some point, they were close. There was a contract. It went back and forth. It was close. I don't know what's happened since then. I don't know if James Cook's showing up for mandatory minicamp. and then showing up and practicing at St. John Fisher for the first, few days. I don't know what changed. I do know what needs to change. James Cook needs to get some new representation and needs to get his brother Delvin out of his ear. Now, again, I'm speculating. I don't know if this is exactly what's happening or if this is James saying that this is what I'm owed. Again, I feel like he's getting some bad advice if that's the case. And I feel like if you look at the deal that Williams got, it should be something very similar. If you look at the offensive production from the two guys, Williams accounted for more yards from scrimmage as far as for the overall percentage to the overall team and scrimmage touchdowns to the overall percentage of the team than James Cook did. So if he's getting paid to be the most productive offensive player as far as scrimmage touchdowns and scrimmage yards, minus the quarterback, why isn't James Cook saying, hey, that makes sense. I only play 40 to 45% of the snaps. I don't play on third down. They don't use me in the 2-minute system. Like, I had one good season where I scored a ton of touchdowns. They probably want me to do it again, and I have to do it again. So he said all that when he came to camp. He said, I have to be here for my team. I want to help this team. I got to be a leader. I got to do what I got to do to get this team over the hump. Like, he said all that stuff, and now he's not participating in practice. Yesterday, there's a report that Sean McDermott asked him if he was going to play, and he said no. Sean McDermott said, well, I need you for warm-ups. He said, fine. So he went out and he did warm-ups earlier today, but then he didn't want to play because McDermott said that he absolutely asked him to play. He was going to play today. So I don't know where the disconnect is. I absolutely think that Josh Allen needs as many skill position players as he can have, as the Bills can give him. Like we knock down and we talk trash about the offense or the wide receiver room, and we complain that there's no number one first round draft picks and there's no bona fide number one studs and alphas. And how are we giving an MVP this set of skill position players? James Cook should be paid. I'm not saying you pay him like you pay Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry, but what's going to happen if a deal doesn't get done between now and the start of the season? James Cook balls out again, has 1,400 rushing yards, 15 touchdowns. The price just went up, and he's going to be playing for somebody else next year. And a lot of Bills fans will say, fine, so be it. We have Ray Davis. We have Ty Johnson. We'll just draft another guy. We have to stop the cycle of just saying running backs are just replaceable because we think that the next guy is on the roster. You know what you have in James Cook. You know you have a guy that I watched in the AFC Championship game make more plays than anybody else on that offense, minus Josh Allen. I mean, the effort on that touchdown alone, he wanted it, and he wants to be here. He wants to be on this team, and I hope it doesn't end ugly, and I hope in a week or two we're sitting here talking about a contract extension. But I just don't like the fact that I think there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. We don't know what the contract offer was from the Bills. We don't know what James Cook is looking for. We don't know who's in his ear. We don't know what he wants as far as guaranteed money and all this stuff. So it's a lot of what ifs. But I do think, like I said, and I'll pound the table, we need to give Josh Allen as many weapons as possible on offense. He can have the greatest offensive line in the world, but if he's got no skill players to give the ball to or pass the ball to, it doesn't matter. And we should not let one of them that's homegrown that you drafted walk out the door. So that's my take on that. Anything else you want to add on James Cook?
And I think that's a key is we don't know how much the Buffalo Bills offered Cook. Right? I know we're talking and we're assuming that, James Cook should just take this deal if it's 11 million per or whatever it could be. But what's the offer the Bills are given, or what was the initial offer? Was it 7 million per, 8 million per, 9 million per? Now, if it's something like that, then I'm looking at the Buffalo Bills side of things, and I'm like, hey, You know, you probably got to pay. You see Kyron Williams' contract there. If he wants something similar to that, and we're $3 million off, you're trying to get him for 8 per, as opposed to 11 or 12. Then I think you have to look at the Buffalo Bills as an organization and say, hey, we have to get this guy. He is a pivotal part on our team in the offense, and we're going to have to do what we have to do. Probably step our numbers up to possibly pay this guy. So I don't know what that initial offer is. I know there's a lot of speculation of what the offer is, but speculation doesn't mean nothing to me unless I see it in black or white, right? So how far apart there are, we don't know, but I just don't want to assume it's James Cook getting bad advice all the time. And maybe right, but I just don't want to assume without knowing for sure how much the Buffalo Bills did indeed offer in their initial offer, whatever that was. But
yeah, and that's what really bothers me about the Bills fan base. Not everybody, because there are some level-headed people like yourself and myself that we don't know. It's all speculation at this point. We just think that James Cook, because 4 months ago on Instagram he said he wanted $15 million. We don't know if he's come to his senses and has said, I'll take 10. How about 10? And we don't know what Brandon Beane's offered. We don't know what the Buffalo Bills have offered. So for a lot of people to jump on his back, James Cook's back, and say, just take the offer, whatever it is. Well, he wants to get paid what he thinks he's worth. And he knows, like the rest of the running backs around the NFL, it's a rough business when you're a running back. You hit a wall once you hit a certain age, and they don't pay you, which is evident as to what's going on right now. Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley, I feel like you can't compare every running back to them age-wise, skill set-wise, contract-wise, because we're talking about two guys that are out of the stratosphere, two Hall of Fame running backs. So we can't say that, oh, well, he's only 25. He's got a bunch of years. We don't know that. He wants one more contract. He wants to get paid what he's worth, and we don't even know what that is. He said 15 mil 4 or 5 months ago. And we don't know if he's backed off of that. He came out and said that he didn't handle a lot of the stuff correctly, and he wished he would have gone about things a different way. But then we don't know if there's other people that are in his ear saying, you're absolutely worth this much, and you should absolutely take this much. And we don't know, like you said, what the Bills want to give him. But all I know is I've heard from people inside of the Bills in the NFL stratosphere say that they were close at some point in the last couple weeks. So I don't know what that looks like. Hopefully they can cross that bridge and get something done so that we don't have to talk about this for the next 5 months, because it's going to become exhausting. I'm sure there's going to be a huge part of it on Hard Knocks on Tuesday. It's no coincidence that he started doing his hold in after the first episode aired, which they started filming for the second episode. So again, we don't know the specifics, but I just think that we need to cut the Bills some slack, and we need to also cut James Cook some slack and just kind of let this thing play out and see where it goes.
So finally, I said, 3 years, $36 million, possibly with an out, add some incentives in there, possibly with an out after the second year of that contract. What's the most you're paying James Cook? You personally, play Brandon Beane for a second. What's the most?
12 mil per. What I would do, and I posted this on social media. So the Williams deal was 3 for 33 with 23 mil guaranteed. I'd give James Cook 3 years, 34 and a half, and give him 24 mil guaranteed. He gets $1 million more guaranteed than a guy who has been more productive than him, and he gets $500,000 a year more than a guy that's been more productive than him. So the Bills can't say, look, we're not trying to, apples to apples here. We're doing exactly what you want us to do. We're compensating you for what we think you're worth. And he can look back and say, oh, I'm making more, because what's going to happen when all these running backs from the last couple years that were drafted that are rising up the ranks, they're going to want more than what Williams got. And then the price is just going to keep going up and up and up. So maybe that's why Brandon Beane tried to get it done earlier. Because I do believe back when the Bills signed, Rousseau and, Bernard and all those guys and Shakir, I feel like there was probably some pretty good talks with James Cook. It just, they couldn't get on the same page. And Brandon Beane has told you for how long about the running back position. This is the first one. And I brought this up at the beginning of the week. James Cook is the first drafted running back that he's drafted that he's tried to give an extension to. He gave an extension to Ty Johnson, but he didn't draft Ty Johnson. It was just a free agent deal that they finally gave him a 2-year deal. I mean, you look at the Motor Singletaries and the Zach Moss and all that. Like, this is the first one he's actually tried to give an extension to. So it looks like on their end, they're trying to do the right thing. So, but yeah, I would do 3. I would do 3 for 34.5 and 24 guaranteed.
Nice.
Anything else you want to touch on before we get out of here?
Nah, I think, first game of the preseason, getting our feet wet, getting back to being accustomed to watching our Buffalo Bills play. We're revving up for the journey once again, right? For the road to hoisting the Lombardi Trophy for the Buffalo Bills. And today was the first start. So I think we covered as much as we can possibly cover for today.
I feel like it. So for everyone, if you've made it this far in the live chat, I appreciate you. I know Akeem appreciates you. We appreciate you. Thank you for rocking with us on. I know it's a Saturday night. It's been a long day. The Bills played a long time ago earlier today, and I know there's a ton of content out there that people are putting out for post games. Please like this if you're still watching. If you haven't liked it already, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on X. Please throw comments in there even after it's live. That helps us get through the YouTube algorithm. Akeem's on vacation next week, so I'll have a special guest co-host, and then no more vacations for Akeem and me until the end of the football season. That's it. That's it.
Yep. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. So you want to take us out of here, Akeem?
Yeah, absolutely. DM3, Dave Myers, 𝐬𝐻𝐵𝐾, 𝐬𝐮𝐻𝐿 be on the lookout for 1st and 5 with DM3 coming up soon. Be on the lookout for Rich Talk with 𝐬𝐻 coming out soon. Just a lot of things happening, developing, and continuously developing for the Built in Buffalo team. So appreciate everybody from tuning in. From Akeem and Dave, this has been Billsology. We thank you, and go Bills.
Go Bills.